Welcome to California Community Church. My name is Gus, and for the last 7 years or so, I've been on staff here at the church, serving mostly in kids ministry and working with teenagers, and on some occasions, just like this one, to give Brad some much-needed time off, I get to share a few words with you. You know, it's said that the greatest ability in life is availability, and wherever you're watching from, whether here in Southern California or somewhere around the world, I'm so happy that you've made yourself available to be part of our faith community today. I would so prefer to be here in person, seeing you or meeting you and getting to know you, sharing a cup of coffee and a donut. But for now, we're online, so I'm really glad we're here together like this. Thank you for joining us. I'm especially happy because today I get to start us off on a new 3-week series called Cancel Culture. Now, some of you spend a lot of quality time on social media. Not necessarily good quality time, but quality time nonetheless. And if in particular you spend much time on Twitter, then the phrase cancel culture is probably in your at least weekly vocabulary anyway, so when you hear me say cancel culture, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Others of you, however, may be wondering, what does that mean? What is cancel culture? And I want you to feel okay about that. In fact, I have a confession to make. Until I was meeting with some pastors from here at the church, I had never heard those two words strung together next to each other in a sentence before in my life. I mean, there we were talking through some great stuff in this meeting. We're planning ideas for this 3-week series to give Pastor Brad and Karen some time just to relax after such a difficult year. And somebody says, hey, how about we do a series called Cancel Culture? And Gus, you can be the first one. You can start it off. And everybody else in the room is like, yay, this is great. What an exciting idea. I don't know what they're talking about, so I go to my best, I'm in touch with current culture. I know what you're talking about. Smile and nod. I'm like, yeah, that's a great idea, but I don't know what they're saying. My mind was racing. There I am in the meeting. I don't want to seem like a complete moron with these people, but the truth is, this whole COVID-19 business and the wildly negative current social status has pushed me to the brink of lunacy. Now, admittedly, that's a pretty short trip, but being that close to the brink has led me to a near total self-imposed boycott of all things social media and news. I mean, seriously, I'm really disconnected. My sister called me from the East Coast to ask me, are you guys okay? Are you being affected by these fires? And all I could tell her was, well, I don't smell any smoke. I don't see any smoke. I haven't been asked to evacuate, so I guess we're fine because I really didn't even know what was going on. So there I am in the meeting with this amazing group of people in the conference room right here at the church. And I realized that while keeping my distance has allowed me to keep some sanity while I'm avoiding social media like COVID, I've also become incredibly disconnected from almost everything culturally relevant. And in that moment, I began to question my choice. But not to worry, I'm smart-ish. I can figure this out. I mean, I know both of those words. I know what the word cancel means, and at some level I can come up with some kind of definition for what culture is. Maybe I can just figure it out on my own. And while I'm thinking, I think about a post that my sister did 10 years ago, before my self-imposed COVID-19 Twitter embargo. Now, I go to the store, and I can't remember why I'm there. I can't remember to pick up milk, but I can remember a post from 10 years ago. Welcome to my brain. Anyway, my sister's posts said exactly this, and I'm going to read it to you in the exact voice in which I read it to myself that day. In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories. Now, if you don't know what that is, you're either more disconnected from culture than I am, or maybe you're just young enough to have never seen the TV show Law and Order. Law and Order was a 1-hour crime drama set in New York City where my sister was living at the time. It started when she was 12 years old, And on the day of this post, she was 32. 2/3 of her life had included law and order. When I read the post, I knew something was up. So I left whatever social media platform this was on, and I did an online search. And at that moment, our mom was in her last days of a pretty short but horrible battle with cancer. And now I learn that after 20 seasons, Law and Order is canceled. And my sister was sad. Canceled. It's gone. Nothing but memories now. So there I am in the meeting, and I'm excited. I'm like, okay, I know what the word cancel means. I get it. Cancel, gone. Culture, I'm starting to figure this out. And now you know what it's like to be in a meeting with me. But I'm beginning to think maybe I'm going to escape this meeting without too much shame or embarrassment by how disconnected I am from the world. Have you ever been there? You're in a meeting or even in a conversation with someone, and something comes up that you're not really sure about, you don't necessarily understand, and your brain just checks out. It's over here trying to figure out, what did they say? What does that mean? Your brain wants to know what everybody else already knows. And then, to make things even more fun, your brain is brought back to that conversation, or that meeting in my case, by the sound of my name. What do you think, Gus? I hear Brad's voice echoing in the dusty chambers of my socially disconnected mind. You'll be the one to start the series, Gus, I hear Brad say. How do you feel about a series about cancel culture? I've got a decision to make in that moment. So that's great, I exclaimed, trying to match the enthusiasm in the room. I do have one question, though, Brad. What's that? He asked. What's cancel culture? Thankfully, Brad and Brent and Donna are people of grace and understanding, and they've known me for a long time, so they found a definition to help me understand what we're talking about, and I'd like to share that with those of you who are unfamiliar with the phrase. Here it goes. Cancel culture refers to the practice of withdrawing support for, canceling, public figures and companies after they've done, or it is believed that they've done, or said something that's considered objectionable or offensive. Cancel culture is generally discussed as being performed on social media in the form of group shaming, this sounds fun, to bring change to the way others think and act. Many who partake in cancel culture activities are striving for positive change. They're seeking justice, and they intentionally do things to support the marginalized, to lift up those who have been pushed out, and they're calling on those who purposely keep people on the outside looking in. The cancel culture can bring light to dark places where individuals or companies perpetuate brokenness and pain in people they don't value. Now, as I did some research, another definition came up, and this one's a little less formal, but you're going to get the point. Another definition says, cancel culture is gathering a bunch of friends and strangers online to bully, pressure, and demean someone else because, with or without proof, they believe that the individual or organization believes or behaves differently than they think they should. So sometimes, instead of positive change, the cancel culture brings large groups of like-minded people together to attack others based on incorrect or outdated information, bringing harm and enormous pressure on people who may not even deserve it. So the cancelers say things like, we, this random group of people, believe that what you, some other random group of people, believe or think is wrong, and we're going to stop supporting you by not going to your movies, we're not going to eat your food, we're not going to watch your TV show, we're going to avoid your sports team, you get the point, until you change. And if you don't change, you're canceled, gone, nothing but memories. It's us versus them, insiders versus outsiders, haves versus have-nots, right versus left, and in our culture, it's become so that there's no middle. There's no gray. I'm right, you're wrong. There's no effort to listen to each other, to learn from each other, to understand each other. Either you're with me or you're against me, and if you're against me, I'm against you. It even includes Christian versus non-Christian. And this is not okay. It's so not okay that Jesus came to cancel that culture. He came to show us a new way, a new kind of wealth, a new kind of love, a new kind of life that's better. Now, I want to say something here. If you're watching this and you haven't yet made the decision to follow Christ, if you're kicking the tires, checking it out, trying to make sure it makes sense, that's great. We're so glad you're here. And our hope for everyone watching now and for the next couple of weeks is that we all get a better look at who Jesus is and the kind of people his followers should be, what we should be in the culture. See, religious culture in Jesus' time and now, religious culture seeks to control and fix us through laws and rituals, through external things on the outside. Some years ago, I had a broken down car. Engine was completely dead. And a friend of mine was going to help me get it going again. So we set out a plan and we took it all apart. My job was to focus on the way the car looked on the outside, and he was to focus on the way the car worked on the inside. I scraped rust and did some touch-up paint. I pulled out old carpet and put in new carpet. I washed and waxed and scrubbed the car until it shined like new. My friend wasn't able to fix the engine, though. And in the end, all my scrubbing, all my work was for nothing. And I looked like a fool because all I had was a shiny, pretty car that didn't work at all. I didn't focus on the things that needed to be changed. The religious, the ritualistic focus on behavior is like washing that car with the broken engine. We may look good on the outside, but without fixing the inside, we'll still be a broken mess. And we'll look like fools because we didn't work on what really needed to be changed. And that's what Jesus came to do, to show us how to stop worrying about the outside and work on the inside. Religious culture focuses on our external lives with rules and regulations. Christ culture, on the other hand, seeks to restore and renew us all through grace and forgiveness and mercy and love by working on the inside. Early in the days when Jesus was building his first group of followers, he sat down to teach some things that utterly slam the culture of the day and our day. It was us versus them then too, the religious versus the common people, the insiders versus the outsiders, and Jesus has other plans. He has love of a different kind. He's going to talk about how our thinking is as important as our doing. And for now, in the next 2 weeks, today I'll be doing this, and in the next 2 weeks, Pastor Brent is going to be sharing some things about the vision that Christ has for us and how amazing it will be when we live that way. So Jesus is going to talk now about wealth of a different kind. He's going to talk about the people who are the most blessed. And the Greek word that he's using here for blessed is makaree, and it means internal wealth, wealth of a different kind. Now check out a few things Jesus says to cancel some culture. This is in Matthew chapter 5. I'm going to read this. I'm going to start here with chapter 3. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What a weird thing to be blessed by, to have internal wealth because of my being poor in spirit. Verse 4, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Have you ever mourned? Have you lost a loved one? Are you mourning someone now who's still here but has been taken from you because of addiction? Mourning is awful. It's painful. And Jesus says we're blessed, we're internally wealthy when we mourn. Jesus is turning culture, what we believe, on its ear. He's teaching us a new way to think. He goes on, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Meek? We're not supposed to be meek. We're supposed to be strong and confident. Meekness is weakness. So we think, but meek is not weak. Meekness is a strength under control. A bridled horse is great strength. Her strength is focused, it's directed, it's controlled, and it's helpful. A stampeding horse is very strong, but it's out of control and of no particular use to anyone. Next verse, 6. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Hunger and thirst for righteousness, and filled with that, I live in Southern California. I need to hunger and thirst for money so I can be filled enough to pay the rent. Now, Jesus isn't condemning wealth here or the need for money, but he might be condemning the motives, the means, the way you're getting wealthy. Next, blessed are the merciful, so they will be shown mercy. Are you someone who shows mercy? If you look back at your social media, do you see you showing mercy to those who are different than you? Or do you see showing something else? Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God inside. What's inside us matters. We will see God when we focus on what's inside. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. We're not talking about peacekeepers here, being someone who can maintain peace where it already exists. We're talking about a peacemaker who creates it amid chaos. Are you a peacemaker? If we took all of your social media posts for the last year and showed it on one of these screens, would that display you as a peacemaker? Or would it display you as something else? Do you need to work on your peacemaking skills? Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. When I was 18, I walked into a carpet store hoping to get a job. It was about 10 miles from my home, and I was hoping to get a job to pay for college and have a little fun money. The manager of the store, in a pretty angry voice, told me in no uncertain terms I was the wrong person for the job. It was really reserved for people who lived close by. It was a very low-level, kind of grungy job. And frankly, he said it wasn't for white people. The owner of the store heard this, and he jumped out of his office and walked me quickly through the store, explaining what the job was, and it was indeed pretty grungy. And he said eventually, after a little interview time, the job's yours if you want it. When can you start? I wanted it, and I started the next day. The manager, however, was not amused, and he made it known he didn't like me being there at all. And soon after that, he found out I was a Christian, and he told me, "No wonder I don't like you," he said. He claimed to be like a self-proclaimed devil worshiper. I don't think he really was, but he wanted to shock my world. And he said, "My mission in life is to destroy your faith, Gus." And he worked hard at it. My Christian mentor at the time, when I asked him, what am I supposed to do about this? He challenged me to live a life of love for that man through Christ. He said, instead of worrying about rituals like, trying to burn him with a crucifix or burn him with some holy water, he said, don't bombard him with worship songs while you work just to annoy him. Love him. Love him all the time, right where he is, in his position of hatred. Just love him. And it worked. So during this time, this verse, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, this carried me through the next 8 years working in that store, and I was indeed internally wealthy while being persecuted. And later, he and I became great friends, and years after that, he became a Christ follower. I want to ask you some questions. Are you being persecuted for the way you think and you're not feeling very blessed? Jesus wants to cancel that culture. Are you persecuting others for the way they think? Jesus wants to cancel that culture too. Are you homeschooling your kids for the first time and your life is complete chaos and you're not feeling very blessed? Jesus wants to cancel that. Are you broken emotionally, financially? Has COVID just messed you up, this whole life of having to be at home all the time? Is your blessing tank running on empty? And all you feel is fear and pain? Jesus wants to cancel that culture. In this early sermon, Jesus jumps right in to defy common logic about who's blessed. People who mourn aren't blessed, they thought, we think. But he says we are. And he's going later on, he's going to say in the coming weeks, we're going to hear from Pastor Brent, some mind-blowing things. So I ask you to commit to being here for the next 2 weeks, and I want to give you a little preview. Check it out. Religion says, look at the outside, clean up, be good, look good, behave well. Christ says, no, look at the inside. Religion says, you shouldn't do this thing or that thing, because if you do those things, you'll be doing wrong. Religion says the deed is what matters. Christ said, if you even think about those things, you're doing wrong. The desire in your heart matters. Culture says, I love you if you serve me and take care of me. Culture says, I love you when you do things that enrich my life. Culture says, I love you as long as you don't think or say or do anything that I disagree with. Then I'll love you. Jesus wants to cancel that culture. Jesus says, I love you, period. And that's how we should be. Loving other people, period. Do they have a different religion than you or none at all? Love them, period. Do they have different political views? Love them, period. Do they live a lifestyle that's different than you think is okay? Love them, period. Be ready for the next 2 weeks to open your mind, to be ready to look at yourself and say, am I right on the inside, based on what Jesus has to say? Be here for those 2 weeks so that you can love people, period. Please pray with me. Lord, I thank you that you know me really, really well, and you love me, period. You don't love me only when I'm doing right. You love me when I'm failing, and you offer mercy and grace to help me stop. And I pray, Lord, that we as a people, we as those who follow you, would be ready to hear from you and listen and make changes in our lives so that others would be blessed by our presence, so that our dynamic and incredible love people, period, lifestyle begins to make a difference in the lives of those we influence. Lord, as we think about cancel culture and how we can crush other people by gathering together and force them out, may we instead cancel the culture that has us wanting to cancel other people. Help us to love people the way you love us, perfectly and without limits. And God, we thank you for this, and we pray this in your name. Amen.